Good morning guys, JT here, and here are my takeaways from today's sales huddle. So on the top right hand corner of the sales huddle, there's always a quote, and the quote read as follows. It said that a river cuts through the rock, not because of the power of the river, but because of the persistence and the consistency. All right, so pay attention to that. A river cuts through a rock, not because of the power, okay, but because of the persistence and the consistency. And that applies to anything, okay? Because you can come into work one day and go hardcore, but you don't do that the rest of the month, all right? So you've got to be persistent and you have to be consistent with whatever you do. Remember that. Okay, and here's where we get to the takeaways. And so what I'm trying to do this time around, guys, is that I've noticed that the takeaways are good 10, 15 minutes, depending upon how many takeaways I had. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut them down to the top 3. So here's my number 1 takeaway from today's UWM Sales Huddle. Availability. There's 3 different stages of availability. Number 1, always being available. Always being available, waiting for a phone call. When they call you and they ask you, hey, can you come host an open house with me? You say yes. Can you make a house call to my client? Like as in, can you go see them? You're like, yes, no problem. I'll be there right now. I'll be there in 5 minutes. And then the second stage of availability is the annoyance stage that, they call you and they ask you, number 1, they call you, you don't pick up the phone. Number 2, they call you, hey, I have an open house this weekend. Are you available? You're like, no, not really. I've got plans already. And they call you, hey, I have a client that wants to get pre-qualified over the weekend. Can you meet him? I don't work weekends. Okay, so that's a second stage of availability. You're annoyed. And then the third stage and the final stage of availability is the stage in which you realize that you've got to be available 24/7. Unfortunately, when some realize this, it may be too late. Hopefully, this isn't you. Hopefully, you can skip a stage 2 and you can recognize that if you are in the sales business, either a loan officer, real estate agent, or whatever it is that you do as an entrepreneur, you've got to be available 24/7. And guys, the second takeaway from today's UWM Sales Huddle was you've got to be coachable, and you always have to be coaching, okay? I'll give you an example. Reading up on the guidelines, polishing up on the guidelines, attending seminars, attending UWM Live, attending UWM Sales Huddle, reading on your own time. You've got to be coaching so that when it's go time, so that when you do have an application and you are in front of a real estate agent or in front of a client, that's where all the preparation you did behind closed doors is paying off. And I will also tell you that on the contrary, that whenever you're in front of a real estate agent, or you're in front of a loan officer, or you're in front of a borrower, or you're in front of anyone that's a possible prospect, okay? On the contrary, if you haven't been coaching, if you haven't been coachable, then it's gonna show. If you haven't been polished up on the guidelines, it's gonna show. So guys, you've got to be coachable. You've got to always be coaching as well. And my third and final takeaway was, what are you gonna be doing to get a new business? And how can you go about getting new business? And oftentimes when you think about that question, okay, when someone asks you that question or you ask yourself that question, it can be very well intimidating. It's an open-ended question, but it can seem as if though it's a closed question. Like for example, it's a yes or a no or an I don't know type of a question. But if you really stop and think about it, there's very many different ways about going and generating new business. I'll give you an example and let me break them down for you, okay? Number 1, past clients. If you've been in the business for 2-3 years, you've got a book of past clients, at least I hope. So what do you do with them? You call them, number 1, check up on them, see how they're doing, say hello. And then number 2, the second time around, you call them, check up on them, see how you're doing. You genuinely care about them. You genuinely ask. And then the third time around, you call, check up on them, see how they're doing, genuinely ask, genuinely follow up on them, genuinely care. The strategy behind that is that whenever they come across someone that is interested in buying, selling, or refinancing, is that your name comes up. Unfortunately, that is the long game. Fortunately, that is the long game I played. That's the game I'm always playing. I'm always thinking 12, 24, 36 months down the line. Number 2, real estate agents. You can't prospect real estate agents. What does that look like? Well, you're calling them. What does that look like? You're calling them, setting up appointments. What else does that look like? You're calling them to present your unique value proposition. Fortunately or unfortunately, the thing about calling real estate agents, it's all about timing if you don't already have an established relationship with them. Now, let me tell you that if you get a coffee appointment with a real estate agent on the first call, good for you, lucky you, good job, okay? However, be prepared that the likelihood of you being declined at least 3 times is very, very common, okay? Again, if you score a coffee appointment the first time, congratulations, good for you. Otherwise, it's gonna take you anywhere from 3 to 5 different phone calls, 5 different times to schedule a one-on-one with them so that you can present your unique value proposition. Now, again, remember I talked about being coachable, right? And coaching all the time. Now, depending on how coachable you've been and how much you've been coaching, it's gonna show when you do meet up with them. There's a saying that says, stay ready so that you don't have to get ready. And that goes back to being coachable and always coaching. Number 3, attorneys, divorce attorneys. I not too long ago, I started going after divorce attorneys. I actually posted on my Facebook and said, guys, please refer me to your divorce attorney, asking for a friend. Guys, I got over 200 different messages. JT, hope all is well. My wife got a couple of messages. That's one, okay? Divorce attorneys. Number 2, trust or probate attorneys. Now, the thing with that, also the long game. You've got to build a relationship with them. You've got to present your unique value proposition. And again, it's all about timing, because it could be that whenever you do call them, they might not have someone that is interested in getting a loan from you. They might or might not have someone that is going through a divorce where they need to refinance their property to get the spouse out of the loan. Again, it is all about timing. By the way, guys, all of these strategies are my strategies that I use, strategies that I put in place. Remember, I play the long game. I was thinking about 12, 24, 36 months down the line. These are my 3 top takeaways from today's UWM Sales Huddle. I hope that you find them of value. Thank you. Until next one.